Hello, family. Please subscribe. Enjoy your story.
So you are now kissing the servant. I kiss who I want to.
Let go of her. The shout echoed across the marble hallway. Ashley's wheelchair tilted dangerously near the staircase. Ali stood there, arms folded, eyes cold. Oh, please, stop acting like she matters. Kamal rushed forward, too late. The chair slipped. Ashley. Wait. Hold on. What if I told you? The man screaming right now wasn't a servant. He was a prince, hiding in plain sight. And the woman everyone thought was weak was the only one strong enough to change his life forever. But here's the real question. Have you ever been judged, dismissed, or treated like you weren't enough? Or maybe someone only valued you when they discovered your worth? Because in this story, love, pride, cruelty, and truth all collide. And, trust me, what happens next? You won't expect it. Quick favor, bestie. Before we dive in, like this video, drop a comment and hit subscribe. It helps YouTube push this story out so more people can see it now. Let me tell you how a prince became a servant and found love where he least expected it. The city never slept. Not in the way people romanticized it. New York didn't sleep because it couldn't. It was always moving. Money, power, influence, circling through glass towers and black cars that never stayed parked long enough to belong anywhere. And somewhere in the middle of that constant motion, Prince Kamal stood still. From the outside, his life looked perfect. Penthouse overlooking Manhattan, private security, invitations that people would trade years of their lives to receive. Washington, D.C. knew his name. Wall Street respected it. And the kind of people who quietly controlled entire industries. They listened when he spoke, but none of that mattered when the room went quiet. Well, Your Highness, the investors are waiting. Kamal adjusted his cuff slowly, eyes drifting toward the window. The skyline stretched endlessly, lights flickering like something alive. Give me a minute. His assistant hesitated. Of course. The door closed. Silence returned. He exhaled, long, measured, controlled, but it didn't help, because no matter how high he climbed, something always felt missing. Not success, not power, something human. Later that night, the ballroom in D.C. shimmered under gold chandeliers. Soft music, laughter that sounded practiced, conversations layered with hidden intentions. Kamal stood among them, dressed perfectly, posture flawless, untouchable. A woman approached him, elegant, poised, eyes calculating beneath the softness. I've heard so much about you. He gave a polite nod. I'm sure you have. She smiled. I admire what you've built. It's inspiring. There it was. Not curiosity, not connection, admiration for what he represented, not who he was. He glanced briefly at her hand, resting lightly against his arm. It lingered a second too long. Intentional. He stepped back, subtle, controlled. Enjoy the evening. And just like that, he was gone. This happened often. Different faces, same energy, same outcome. And each time, that quiet feeling returned. Not anger, not even disappointment, just emptiness. Later, in the back seat of a black car moving through the city, Kamal leaned his head slightly against the window. Lights passed in streaks. Voices from the event still echoed faintly in his mind. Strategic partnership. Influence. Legacy. He closed his eyes briefly. Is this really it? The question barely formed, but it stayed, lingering, unanswered, because deep down, he already knew this life was built perfectly, but it didn't feel real. It hadn't always been like this. There was a time when the silence didn't feel heavy, when the space beside him didn't feel empty. Her laugh used to fill rooms without effort, not loud, not overwhelming, just warm, the kind that made everything feel lighter without trying. Kamal could still remember the way she used to look at him. Not at his title, not at his status. At him, like she saw past everything the world cared about. Stop thinking so much. Her voice used to come out of nowhere sometimes. He'd look at her, slightly confused. I'm not thinking. She'd raise an eyebrow. Sure you're not. A soft smile would follow. Always that smile. Now, that voice was gone, and the silence it left behind was louder than anything he had ever experienced. The hospital room had been too quiet that day. Machines humming softly. Doctors speaking in careful tones. Words chosen to soften something that couldn't be softened. Kamal stood there, listening, but not really hearing. We did everything we could. Complications? I'm sorry. He nodded. Once, twice, but none of it landed, because the only thing he could focus on was her hand in his. Weak, still, fading. Hey! His voice had been steady, too steady. You're going to be fine. She looked at him, and for a moment, he thought she believed him. Then she smiled, soft, knowing. You're a terrible liar. His breath caught slightly. I'm serious. She shook her head. Just a little. Kamal. The way she said his name. Not as a title, not as something heavy, just his name. Take care of him. He froze. What? Our son. Her voice was quieter now. Don't let him grow up feeling alone. Kamal tightened his grip slightly. You're going to tell him that yourself. Long, heavy. Then she whispered, promise me. He didn't answer immediately, because something inside him didn't want to accept what those words meant. Kamal. I promise. Her fingers tightened around his, then slowly. They loosened. The machine didn't scream, didn't crash dramatically like in movies. It just flattened, quietly, and just like that. The world changed. Back in the present, Kamal stood alone in his penthouse. City lights glowing outside. Everything exactly where it should be. Perfect, untouched, cold. He walked past the living room slowly, every step measured, controlled, until he reached the one place he avoided most, her side of the room. Nothing had been moved. Not the books, not the small things she left behind, not even the faint scent that still lingered if he stood still long enough. He reached out, hesitated, then let his hand fall. Yeah, his voice was low, barely there. I know. There were no tears, not anymore. That part had already passed. What remained was something quieter, heavier, an absence that never left. And no matter how many people surrounded him, no matter how loud the world became, that emptiness stayed right there, constant, unshaken, because the only person who had ever truly seen him was gone, and nothing in his world, not power, not wealth, not status, had been able to replace that, or even come close. The penthouse felt too quiet again. But this time, there was a small sound, soft footsteps, uneven, careful. Dad? Kamal turned slightly. There he was, small frame, curious eyes, still carrying a kind of innocence the world hadn't touched yet. His son. Kamal's expression softened, just a little. Hey, the boy stepped closer, holding something in his hands. A drawing, crayons pressed too hard into the paper, colors overlapping in places they weren't supposed to. I made this. Kamal crouched down slightly, taking it. He didn't rush, didn't pretend. He actually looked. Two figures, one taller, one smaller, and a third, faint, almost erased. His chest tightened. This is us? The boy nodded. Then, that's Mommy too. Kamal swallowed, slowly, carefully. Yeah, his voice came out lower than he expected. I see her. The boy shifted his weight slightly. Is she still watching us? That question, it didn't come with drama, just quiet curiosity. And that made it heavier. Kamal looked at him, really looked at the way he waited. Not demanding, not emotional, just needing something real. Yeah, he nodded slowly. I think she is. The boy seemed to accept that, like it made sense. Okay. He sat down beside him, close, not asking for anything more. And that was the moment Kamal felt it again. Not the emptiness, not the silence. Something else. Responsibility. Because this wasn't just about him anymore. Hadn't been for a long time. Dad? Are you always busy? Kamal paused. Why? The boy shrugged lightly. I don't see you a lot. That landed harder than anything from boardrooms or strangers ever could. Kamal leaned back slightly, exhaling. Yeah, a small breath. I've been busy. Silence stretched between them. But this time, it wasn't empty. It was honest. The boy leaned against him, lightly, trusting, without hesitation. And Kamal felt it again, that quiet pull, that grounding feeling that cut through everything else. This was real, not the events, not the power, not the attention. This. Hey, Kamal spoke gently. I'm going to fix that. Okay? The boy looked up. Fix what? He hesitated, just for a second. Me being gone too much. The boy smiled. Simple, pure. Okay, no pressure, no expectations, just belief. Kamal looked at him, and for the first time in a long time, he felt something close to clarity. Because if he couldn't find something real, something honest, something worth building, then what exactly was he giving his son? Another version of the same empty life? No, the word came out quietly, but firmly. That wasn't going to happen. It didn't take long for the pattern to become obvious, too obvious. Dinner invitations, private events, carefully arranged introductions. At first, Kamal played along, out of respect, out of expectation. But after a while, it all started to feel the same. So, what's it like? He glanced up slightly. The woman across from him leaned forward, chin resting lightly on her hand. To be you? He gave a small, controlled smile. What do you mean? She laughed softly. You know, the lifestyle, the influence, the power. There it was again. Not curiosity about his thoughts, not interest in his experiences, just fascination with what came with him. It's busy. He kept it simple, neutral. She studied him for a moment, then shifted slightly closer. I like that. He didn't respond, because he already knew where this was going. Another night, different face, same conversation. I feel like we'd make a great match. Kamal raised an eyebrow slightly. Based on what? She smiled. Compatibility. He tilted his head. We just met. She laughed. Exactly. He exhaled slowly. There it was. Again. Not connection. Not understanding. Opportunity. Later, walking out of the building, he loosened his tie slightly, breathing in the night air like he needed something real to cut through the repetition. It's all the same. The thought came quietly, but it stayed, because no matter where he went, no matter who he met, they all saw the same thing. Not him, what he represented. And, slowly, that turned into something deeper. Distrust, not loud, not aggressive, just quiet certainty that whatever this was, it wasn't real. Days passed, then weeks, and the more he observed, the clearer it became. If he stayed in this world, he would never know the difference between someone who wanted him and someone who wanted his life. One evening, back in the penthouse, Kamal stood near the window again, city lights stretching endlessly below. His reflection stared back at him, perfect, composed, unreachable. Who actually sees you? The question came out under his breath. No answer. Just silence. He closed his eyes briefly. Then, a thought. Simple, but different. What if they didn't know? He opened his eyes slowly. What if, for once, no one knew who he was? No title, no status, no advantage, just him. The idea settled in, slowly, but firmly. He turned away from the window, walking with more purpose now, because suddenly, for the first time in a long time, there was direction. Not given, not expected, chosen. I need to disappear. The words came out low, but certain, not forever, just long enough. To find something real, something that didn't come with expectations, or conditions, or hidden intentions, something honest. And if that meant stepping away from everything he had built, from everything people believed defined him, then so be it. Because at this point, staying the same felt worse than losing everything. And somewhere deep down, he already knew. This decision was going to change everything. The gates opened slowly. Not rushed, not dramatic, just smooth, controlled. The kind of movement that didn't need to impress anyone because it already knew its worth. Kamal, now Kai, sat quietly in the passenger seat as the car rolled into the estate. Atlanta, not the loud, crowded parts people posted online. No, this was different. Private roads, wide spaces, houses that didn't compete. They established presence. And the Vale estate? It didn't just sit there. It dominated the land around it. Well, this is it, the driver muttered. Kai nodded once, no reaction. But internally, he was observing everything. Security placement, camera angles, distance between structures. Not because he was impressed, because he was adjusting. The car stopped. Door opened. Heat brushed lightly against his face as he stepped out. The air felt different here. Slower, heavier. Follow me. A house staff member spoke quickly, already turning before Kai could respond. Inside, marble floors, soft lighting, minimal noise. Everything placed with intention. Nothing excessive, just expensive in a way that didn't need validation. Then, a soft sound, not loud, not demanding, just there. Kai turned slightly, and that's when he saw her, Ashley. She wasn't positioned in the center of the room, wasn't surrounded by attention. She was near the window, natural light resting gently across her face, hands folded loosely in her lap. Still, composed, her wheelchair didn't define the space. She did. Kai didn't move immediately, didn't speak, because something about her presence didn't match what he expected. She looked up, not startled, not curious in an obvious way, just aware. Their eyes met, briefly, and in that moment, there was no judgment, no immediate assumption, just observation. You're new. Her voice was soft, but clear. Kai nodded once. Yes. A small pause, not awkward, just measured. She tilted her head slightly, like she was thinking. What's your name? Kai. Another pause. Then, a faint acknowledgement, not impressed, not dismissive, just accepting the information. He noticed that most people asked more, pushed, tried to define him quickly. She didn't, and somehow, that stood out more than anything else in the room. Welcome. She said it simply, no performance behind it. Then her attention shifted, not because she lost interest, but because she didn't need to hold it. Kai remained still for a second longer. Yeah, the word barely formed, more thought than voice, because for the first time since entering, something felt different, not warm, not emotional, just not forced. And he couldn't explain why that mattered yet. But it did, more than it should have, and without realizing it, he had already taken note. Ashley wasn't loud, wasn't dominant, but she was present in a way that didn't need attention to exist. And in a house built on power, that kind of presence was rare and dangerous in a completely different way. The shift in energy happened instantly. No warning, no build-up, just presence. Footsteps echoed across the marble floor. Sharp, confident, measured like someone who knew exactly how much space they owned. Kai didn't need to turn immediately. He already knew. This was her, Ali. Well, Who's this? Her voice carried before her face fully entered the room. Kai turned. She was exactly what he expected. Polished. Perfect. Every detail intentional. From the way she walked to the way her eyes scanned him. Assessing, not observing. There was a difference. She didn't see people. She evaluated them. Kai? Ashley answered calmly. He just arrived. Ali's gaze shifted briefly to her sister, then back. Kai. She repeated it slowly, testing the name like it needed approval. Then, a small smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. Okay, Kai. She stepped closer, not invading, just enough to control the space between them. Do you know where you are? Kai met her gaze. I do. A slight tilt of her head. Amusement. Good. She circled slightly, not fully, just enough to look at him from another angle, because this wasn't curiosity. This was positioning. You'll need to understand something. Her tone softened, but it didn't lose its edge. This house runs a certain way. Kai didn't respond. She continued. Standards matter here. Then, so don't fall behind. Silence. Ashley shifted slightly near the window, not interrupting. Just present. Ali noticed. Of course she did. She always noticed. Her attention flickered briefly toward her sister, then back to Kai. Are we clear? Kai nodded once. Yes. That should have been enough. But Ali didn't move. Instead, she leaned slightly closer, just enough to test something. You don't talk much, do you? Kai held her gaze, only when necessary. Then she smiled again, this time sharper. We'll see how long that lasts. She stepped back, control restored, and just like that, the room belonged to her again, but not completely, because even as she moved away, Kai noticed something. Ashley hadn't reacted, not outwardly, no discomfort, no interruption, but her eyes had shifted, just slightly, not toward Ali, toward him, and for a brief moment, there was something there, not concern, not judgment, just awareness, like she understood what had just happened, without needing to say anything about it. Kai exhaled slowly. Yeah, barely audible, because now it was clear. This house wasn't just structured by wealth. It was structured by power. And Ali? She didn't just live in it. She controlled it. And anyone stepping into that space was either going to submit to it or challenge it. There was no middle ground. And for the first time since arriving, Kai understood something important. This wasn't going to be simple. Not at all. The room didn't stay tense for long. Not on the surface, at least. Ali had already moved on. Ashley returned to her quiet stillness. But there was one presence that hadn't shifted at all. Taryn. Kai noticed her before she spoke. Not because she made noise. Because she didn't. She leaned against the far wall, one foot resting slightly behind the other, arms folded loosely. Not defensive, just comfortable, watching, not like Ali, not assessing, not like Ashley, not quietly absorbing. This was different. Taryn watched like someone who didn't need answers immediately, like she was fine letting things unfold. Kai met her gaze briefly. She didn't look away. That alone set her apart. Most people either challenged or avoided eye contact. She just held it, neutral. You're not from here. Her voice came out calm. No edge, no curiosity layered with intention. Just a statement. Kai tilted his head slightly. Why do you say that? A small shrug. You move different. Simple. Direct. He didn't respond immediately. Because she wasn't asking. She was observing, and she didn't need confirmation. Maybe. That was all he gave. She nodded once, like that was enough. Then her gaze shifted slightly, toward Ali, who was already halfway across the room, speaking into her phone. Then to Ashley, still near the window, still quiet. Then back to Kai. You planning on staying long? The question wasn't loaded, but it wasn't empty either. Kai paused. Not sure yet. She pushed herself off the wall slightly, not fully stepping forward, just adjusting. That sound. It wasn't agreement. It was acknowledgement, like she was filing the answer away. No pressure, no follow-up, just noted. Kai exhaled slowly. You don't ask a lot of questions. Taryn's lips curved just slightly, not a full smile. People usually tell you what you need to know. Then, if you watch long enough, that landed, because in a house like this, where everything was layered with intention, observation wasn't passive, it was power. And Taryn, she understood that, more than she let on. She stepped back again, returning to her original position, like the conversation had already served its purpose. No goodbye, no closing statement, just done. Kai stood there for a moment. Right, barely audible, because now the dynamic was clearer. Ashley saw without judgment, ally controlled through dominance, and Taryn, she understood, without interfering, which meant she was probably the most dangerous one in the room, not because she acted, but because she didn't, and that kind of stillness, it always meant something. You just didn't know what yet. The estate didn't reveal itself all at once. It unfolded, hallways stretched wide, but never empty, rooms connected seamlessly, each space carrying its own atmosphere. Nothing felt accidental. Even the silence had structure. Kai followed one of the staff members through the interior, learning the layout, not just physically, but socially, because in a place like this, where you stood mattered. Kitchens through here, the staff member pointed briefly. Schedules are posted daily. Don't fall behind. Kai nodded. Simple, but as he moved, he noticed something. Staff avoided eye contact in certain areas, spoke less in others. And the reason was clear. Ali, her presence carried through the house even when she wasn't physically in the room. Expectations, standards, control. Kai stepped into the main living area again. Ashley was still near the window. Different position, same energy. Taryn had disappeared. And ally. She re-entered, phone in hand, expression focused. Then cancel it. Her tone was sharp. No hesitation. I don't care how it looks. Fix it. She ended the call without waiting for a response. Then her attention shifted directly to Kai. You, not his name, just you. He stopped. A brief silence. Then, yes? She gestured slightly. Come here. Kai stepped forward. Controlled. She looked at him for a second. Not long. Just enough. Did anyone explain your role properly? Yes. She studied him. Then, no, I don't think they did. She turned slightly, motioning toward the room. This space needs to stay presentable at all times. Her voice was calm, but firm. People come in here, important people. Kai nodded once. I understand. She stepped closer, just slightly. Do you? Because this wasn't about cleaning. This was about control. Kai held her gaze. Yes. Silence. Then, Ashley's voice. Soft, but it cut through. He just got here. Both of them turned slightly. Ashley's expression hadn't changed. Still calm, still composed, but her presence shifted the moment. Ali's eyes narrowed slightly. Not anger, annoyance. He can still listen. Ashley didn't argue. Didn't push. She just looked at Kai briefly, then back at Ali, and said nothing. That silence. It said enough. Kai noticed it. The difference, Ali needed control. Ashley didn't, and somehow, that made her just as steady, if not more. Tension settled lightly in the room, not explosive, but present. Kai exhaled slowly. Understood. Ali stepped back. Satisfied. For your sake, I hope so. She turned, already moving on, like the moment didn't need to last longer. But it did, because, as she walked away, Kai felt it. That quiet line drawn between them, not spoken, but clear, and as he glanced briefly toward Ashley, she was already looking away, not avoiding, just giving space, which somehow made everything feel even more real. Kai stood there for a second longer. This place. The thought trailed, because now he understood something important. This wasn't just a house. It was a system built on presence, power, and unspoken rules, and every person inside it played their role, whether they realized it or not. And him? He had just stepped into it, without fully knowing what it would cost. Morning didn't arrive gently in the Vale estate. It arrived with movement, footsteps, voices layered under control, distant sounds of preparation. Kai adjusted his sleeves quietly as he stepped into the main dining area. Everything already set, plates aligned perfectly, glassware untouched but ready. He moved with intention, not rushed, not slow, watching, learning, because in this house, mistakes weren't corrected, they were remembered. This goes here. Another staff member murmured quickly, adjusting a setting slightly. Kai nodded once, understood. Then, footsteps, different this time, sharper, more defined. Ali. She entered without hesitation, already scrolling through her phone. Attention split, but not distracted. Never distracted. She stopped near the table, looked at it, not fully, just enough. Then, a slight pause. Kai noticed it, because that kind of pause, it meant something. She placed her phone down slowly, eyes narrowing just a fraction. Really? The word wasn't loud, but it didn't need to be. Kai turned. Yes? She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she stepped closer to the table, ran her finger lightly across the surface, lifted it, clean. But that wasn't the point. Her gaze shifted to him. You're telling me this is your standard? Kai held her gaze. It's clean. Silence. Then, she smiled, not warm, sharp. Oh, I see. Her hand moved toward the plate in front of her. Casual, too casual. Kai noticed, but he didn't move, didn't react. Because reacting would give her something, and that's exactly what she wanted. Let me help you understand something. Her voice dropped slightly, controlled, then, without warning, she lifted the plate and threw it. Food hit his chest, not hard enough to injure, but deliberate enough to humiliate. Silence followed instantly. No one moved, no one spoke. The room held its breath. Kai stood still, food sliding slowly down the fabric of his shirt. Warm, uncomfortable, but that wasn't what mattered. What mattered was the intention behind it. He looked at her, not angry, not reactive, just steady, and that irritated her more than anything. Now it's dirty. She tilted her head slightly. Fix it. No one stepped in, not the staff, not Taryn, who had reappeared quietly near the doorway. Everyone understood the rules. This wasn't about cleaning. This was about power. Kai exhaled slowly. Understood. His voice stayed level, controlled. He reached for a cloth, began cleaning, not rushed, not embarrassed, just doing what needed to be done. And that shift, that lack of visible reaction, made something flicker in the room, because humiliation usually came with a response. Anger, embarrassment, submission. But this was none of those. And for a brief moment, even Ali paused, just slightly. Then, she scoffed. Yeah, you'll learn. And just like that, she turned away, as if the moment had already served its purpose. But it hadn't, not entirely, because someone had been watching closely. And this time, she wasn't staying silent. Ashley, don't. The words didn't come out fast enough, because she had already moved. Her hands pressed lightly against the wheels, pushing forward, not aggressively, but with intention. Ashley, it's fine. Kai started, but she didn't stop. Ali, that's enough. Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried, clear, steady, and that alone shifted the room. Ali turned slowly, expression unreadable at first, then a small, disbelieving laugh. "Excuse me?" Ashley didn't hesitate. "You don't have to treat people like that." Simple, direct, no accusation layered with emotion, just truth. And that hit harder. Ali's smile faded slightly. "Oh, so now you're giving instructions?" Ashley met her gaze. "I'm asking you to stop. Long enough for tension to settle, but not long enough to dissolve it." Then Ali stepped closer, slow, measured. "Do you even hear yourself right now?" Ashley didn't move back, didn't lower her gaze. Yes, that answer. Calm, unshaken. It disrupted something, because Ali expected resistance to crack, not hold. And for a second, she didn't respond. Then, her eyes flicked toward Kai, then back to Ashley. "This isn't about you." Ashley's grip tightened slightly on the wheels. "It is when you're wrong." Silence, the kind that doesn't sit comfortably, the kind that presses. Then, Ashley moved again, forward, trying to close the distance, trying to hold her ground physically, not just verbally. And that's when it happened. One wheel caught, just slightly, barely visible, but enough. Her balance shifted. The chair tilted. Ashley. Kai moved instantly. No hesitation, no thought, just instinct. Because in that split second, nothing else mattered. He reached her. Just as she slipped, his hands caught her. Firm, careful, stopping the fall before it could fully happen. Her breath caught, sharp. She started, but stopped, because for a moment, everything went quiet. Too quiet. Her hands rested against him, not gripping, not pushing away, just there. And their eyes met, close, closer than before. No space for distance, no room for performance, just presence. Kai didn't move, didn't speak, because something in that moment didn't need words. It just was. Her breathing slowed, gradually, and for a second, the world outside that moment didn't exist. Then, a shift, reality returning. She pulled back slightly. "I'm okay." Her voice softer now, but still steady. Kai nodded once. "Yeah." A brief pause. Then, "I've got you." The words slipped out before he could stop them. And for a second, she looked at him differently. Not surprised, not confused, just aware. Then she adjusted herself back into position, composed again, like the moment hadn't just happened, but it had, and both of them knew it. Behind them, Ali let out a quiet scoff. "Wow." Her voice cut through the silence again. "Now we're doing this?" No one responded, not immediately, because something had shifted, subtle, but undeniable. And for the first time since Kai entered that house, the power dynamic didn't feel as fixed as it had before, because someone had stepped out of their role, and someone else had responded. Without thinking, and that kind of moment, it doesn't disappear. It stays quiet, unspoken, but real, and whether anyone admitted it or not. Everything after this, was going to feel different. The room didn't return to normal, not completely. Even after Ashley adjusted herself, even after Ali turned away, something stayed. Kai felt it before he understood it. That moment, when he caught her. It didn't end when she pulled back. It lingered, in the space between them. In the quiet that followed, he stepped back slightly, not far, just enough to restore distance. But his attention didn't shift, because now, he noticed details he hadn't before. The way she held herself, not fragile, careful, controlled, like every movement had been learned, not assumed. Ashley adjusted the position of her hands on the wheels again, subtle. Then she looked up, not at Ali, at him, and, for a second, there was something different in her eyes. not curiosity, recognition. Thank you. Her voice came out quiet, but clear. Kai nodded once. You don't have to say that. She held his gaze. I do. Simple. No extra weight behind it. Just truth. And that landed in a way he didn't expect, because most people, they overcompensated, turned small moments into something bigger, or ignored them completely. But this was balanced, real, and for the first time, Kai felt something shift inside him. Not emotion, not fully, but awareness that this connection wasn't built on anything external, not status, not expectation, just presence. Ashley turned slightly, looking toward the window again, but not fully disengaging, like part of her attention stayed with him. Kai exhaled slowly. You shouldn't have stepped in. The words came out before he thought them through. She paused. Then, I know. No hesitation. No denial. That answer caught him off guard. He glanced at her. Then why did you? A brief silence. Not empty. Just honest. Then she spoke. Because it was wrong. That was it. No speech. No explanation layered with emotion. Just a decision. And suddenly, everything about that moment made sense. Kai looked at her for a second longer. You don't hesitate. Ashley gave a faint, almost invisible smile. I do. I just don't stay there. That line. It stayed because it wasn't something you said casually. It came from experience, from learning, from choosing not to be held back by fear. Kai looked away briefly. Yeah. A soft breath followed, because now he understood something important. Ashley wasn't strong because she avoided difficulty. She was strong because she moved through it, quietly, without needing acknowledgement. And that kind of strength didn't announce itself. It revealed itself. In moments like this, moments where most people would step back. But she didn't, and even though neither of them said it, something had already begun, not loud, not defined, but real. And once something like that starts, it doesn't disappear easily. It builds slowly, in ways you don't always notice at first, until you do. And by then, it's already there, deeper than you expected. The room didn't recover the way it usually did, because moments like that, they didn't fade. They settled in people, in silence, in the way everyone avoided saying what had just happened out loud. Taryn stood near the doorway again, still, watching. Her expression hadn't changed much, but her attention had. It stayed on Ashley, not out of concern, out of understanding, because she knew that wasn't easy, not physically, not emotionally, and yet Ashley had stepped forward anyway. Across the room, Ali pretended none of it mattered, scrolling through her phone again, but her movements were sharper now, less controlled, because even if she didn't admit it, something about that moment didn't go the way she expected. Kai noticed, not directly, but enough, because power, it didn't like being interrupted, and that's exactly what had happened. Without force, without confrontation, just presence. Ashley shifted slightly again, not because she was uncomfortable, because she was resetting, re-centering. Kai watched her for a second longer, then turned back to his task, cleaning, but slower now, more aware, because the moment had changed the context of everything. You okay? The question came from Taryn, unexpected. Ashley glanced toward her. Simple. Taryn nodded once. No follow-up. Because she didn't need one. She had already seen enough. Kai exhaled quietly. Yeah. The word slipped out again, low, because now he wasn't just observing the house, he was feeling it, understanding the layers, the way power moved, the way silence carried meaning, the way strength didn't always look the way people expected. And that changed something, because before, this was just an experiment, a way to step outside his world. But now, there was something else, something he didn't plan for, something he didn't fully understand yet. But it was there, and it was tied to her, Ashley, the one person in that house who didn't need power to stand firm, who didn't need attention to be present, who didn't need validation to act. Kai glanced toward her again. She wasn't looking at him, but somehow it still felt like the moment hadn't ended. Because some moments don't. They stay, they shift things internally, they create awareness, they build something that wasn't there before, and whether you acknowledge it or not, they change how you see everything after. Kai straightened slightly, finished cleaning the table, but his mind didn't return to neutral, because now there was a question sitting quietly in the back of it, not loud, not demanding, just present. What else don't you see yet? No answer. Just a feeling that this house was going to show him more than he expected. Not about wealth, not about power, but about people and the difference between what they show and what they actually are. And for the first time, he wasn't just ready to observe it. He wanted to understand it. And maybe, just maybe, be part of something real inside it, even if he didn't fully know what that meant yet, because something had already started, and there was no going back to before it, not anymore. Time didn't shift all at once in the Vale estate. It stretched. Days passed with structure, expectations, routine, but nights were different, quieter, less controlled. That's where things began to change. It started without intention. Kai had stayed back one evening, finishing a task that didn't need finishing, not because it was required, because leaving felt unnecessary. The house had settled, lights dimmed, voices gone, and in that silence, he noticed something, a faint light near the window. Ashley, same place, different time. Kai hesitated. Then, he walked over, not too close, just enough to be present. You're still up. Her voice came before she looked at him. Yes. A small pause. Then she turned slightly. You do that a lot. Kai raised an eyebrow. Stay up? She nodded. Another pause. Not awkward. Just open. He leaned lightly against the wall. Could say the same about you. A faint smile touched her lips. Fair. Silence again. But this one felt different. Not empty. Comfortable. Like neither of them felt the need to fill it. That was new. For him. You don't ask questions. Kai spoke quietly. Ashley tilted her head slightly. I do. Just not the ones people expect. That answer lingered, because it wasn't defensive. It was intentional. Kai looked toward the window. City lights stretched in the distance. What kind of questions do you ask? Ashley didn't answer immediately. Then, the kind people don't prepare answers for. Kai exhaled softly. That sounds complicated. She shook her head. No, it's actually simple. Another pause. People just don't like being seen that way. That landed because it felt accurate, too accurate. Kai shifted slightly. And you think you see people? Ashley looked at him now, directly. I think I try to, not confidence, not arrogance, just effort. And that mattered. Kai held her gaze for a second longer, then looked away. That's rare. A soft breath followed, because it was. Most people didn't try. They assumed. They decided quickly, moved on just as fast. But this felt slower, intentional, and for some reason, that made it harder to hide. The silence returned, but now, it carried something else. Familiarity. Ashley adjusted slightly in her chair. You don't talk about yourself. There it was. Not a question, an observation. Kai didn't respond immediately. Because this was where things shifted, where most conversations either stayed surface level or became something more. There's not much to say. Ashley's gaze didn't move. That's not true. It just means you're choosing not to. That hit closer than he expected. Kai looked back at her. You always this direct? A faint smile again. Only when it matters. Silence. Then, he nodded. Fair. And just like that. The conversation didn't end. It settled, like it had found its place. And from that night, it became routine. Not scheduled, not planned, just natural. Late nights, short conversations, long pauses, and slowly, without either of them forcing it, something began to build, not loud, not obvious, but steady, the kind of connection that doesn't need attention to grow. It just does, and every night it happened. Kai found himself staying a little longer, listening a little more, speaking, just enough, because for once, there was no expectation attached to it, no pressure, no hidden intent, just two people sharing space, honestly, and that was something he hadn't felt in a long time. If ever, it didn't happen all at once. Vulnerability never does. It builds layer by layer, until one moment, something slips through, and you realize, you've already crossed the line. It was another night. Same setting, same quiet, but something felt different. Kai noticed it immediately. Not in the room. In her, Ashley wasn't looking at the window this time. She was still more than usual. You okay? The question came out softer than he intended. Ashley didn't answer right away. Then, do you ever feel like people decide who you are before you even say anything? Kai paused. That question, it wasn't casual. It came from somewhere deeper. Yeah, he didn't overthink the answer, because it didn't need to be complicated. She nodded slightly. I figured. Then, it gets exhausting. Her voice stayed steady, but there was something under it now. Something quieter. Something real. Kai leaned back slightly. People like simple stories. Ashley glanced at him. What do you mean? He hesitated. Then, it's easier to decide who someone is than to actually understand them. Ashley nodded slowly. Yeah. The agreement came out softer, more personal, because she knew that feeling, not from assumption, from experience. They look at me, she continued, and they already know the story. Kai didn't interrupt, didn't rush to respond, because this wasn't something you cut off. They think I'm fragile. A small pause. Limited. Another. Something to feel sorry for. Silence settled again. But this time, it carried weight. Kai's jaw tightened slightly. Not visibly, but enough. They're wrong. Ashley let out a quiet breath. I know. That's not the hard part. Kai looked at her. Then what is? She hesitated, just for a second. Then, the hard part is pretending it doesn't get to you. That landed because it was honest, not polished, not framed to sound strong, just real. Kai looked away briefly. Yeah. A soft exhale followed, because he understood that in a different way, but the feeling, it was the same. Ashley glanced at him again. You get it. Not a question, a realization. Kai didn't respond immediately, because this was where things got complicated, where truth started pushing against the version of himself he was maintaining. I do. Simple. Careful. Ashley held his gaze for a second longer, then nodded. No push, no demand for more, just acceptance. And that made it harder, because she wasn't trying to uncover him, she was just understanding what was there, and for the first time, Kai felt something shift, not just awareness, not just connection, something deeper, trust, not complete, not fully formed, but present, and that was new, because trust wasn't something he gave easily anymore, not after everything, not after seeing how people operated around him, but here, in this quiet space, with no expectations, no performance. It felt possible. Kai exhaled slowly. You're not what they think. Ashley's lips curved slightly. I know, but it's still nice to hear it. That moment, it stayed, because it wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud, but it meant something, and, as the silence returned, it didn't feel heavy. It felt shared, like something had been acknowledged, without needing to be explained further, and from that night on, the distance between them wasn't the same anymore. It didn't disappear, but it changed, subtly, naturally, until one day, it wouldn't feel like distance at all, just space, between two people who understood each other more than they expected to, and maybe more than they were ready for, but it was happening, whether they named it or not. It didn't happen during the day. Taryn didn't move like that. She didn't follow routines, didn't sit in places long enough to be predictable. If you wanted to understand her, you had to notice the gaps, the moments she disappeared. Kai noticed, not immediately, but over time, certain nights. She wasn't inside, no footsteps, no presence in the usual spaces, just gone. The first time he followed, it wasn't intentional. He was heading toward the back corridor. Then, a sound, soft, metal shifting. He paused, listened, then moved toward it. The back of the estate opened into a wide stretch of land, grass, trees, and a tall fence separating the property from everything beyond it. That's where she was. Taryn, one foot already placed against the metal, hands gripping the top edge. She didn't look surprised when he approached. You're late. Kai stopped a few steps behind her. I wasn't planning on being here. She smirked slightly. Yeah, that's what makes it interesting. Then she pulled herself up. Quick, controlled, like she'd done it before, because she sat on the top of the fence for a second, then glanced down at him. You coming? Kai raised an eyebrow. You just climb out whenever you feel like it. A small shrug, whenever I need to. That answer. It wasn't about rebellion. It was about space. Kai stepped closer, looked up at the fence, then back at her. And no one notices. She tilted her head. They notice what they're looking for. This isn't one of those things. That made sense. In a house built on control. The things outside of it were easy to ignore. Kai placed his hand on the fence, tested the grip, then, without saying anything, he climbed, not as fast as her, but steady, controlled. He reached the top, sat beside her, and for a second, they both just stayed there, looking out. The city lights were distant from here, faint, not overwhelming, just enough to remind you it existed. So what's out there? Kai asked quietly. Taryn leaned back slightly. Nothing special. That's the point. He exhaled softly. You don't like it here. She glanced at him. I didn't say that. But you leave. She nodded once. No explanation, no justification, just acknowledgement. Kai looked ahead again. Why? Taryn didn't answer immediately. Then, because in there, everything's already decided. Out here, it's not. That landed because it mirrored something he hadn't said out loud. The difference between structure and freedom. Kai shifted slightly. You always this honest? She smirked faintly. Only when it's quiet. That made him almost smile. Almost. They sat there for a moment longer. Then, without warning, she dropped down the other side, landing lightly. Kai looked down. You're not even going to wait? Her voice came from below. You coming or not? A brief pause. Then, he followed, landing beside her. The ground felt different. Not softer. Just less controlled. They walked a little. Not far. No destination. Just movement. You're not who you say you are. The words came out casually, like she was commenting on the weather. Kai didn't react immediately. That's a strong assumption. She shrugged. Not really. You don't fit. Simple. Direct. Kai glanced at her. And you do? A faint smile. No. That answer. It shifted the moment, because now, it wasn't about exposure. It was about understanding. They both didn't belong. Not fully. Not in the way the house expected. Kai exhaled slowly. You going to ask more questions? Taryn shook her head. No. You'll say it when you're ready. And just like that, the conversation ended, not abruptly, naturally, because she didn't push, didn't need answers immediately. And that made her easier to trust, in a way he didn't expect. They walked back in silence, then climbed the fence again, returning to the estate. Nothing dramatic, nothing loud, but something had shifted, because now, Kai wasn't just observing the house, he was stepping outside of it, even if only for moments. And those moments, oh, they mattered more than he realized, because they reminded him that not everything had to be controlled, not everything had to be defined, and sometimes the most honest parts of a person show up when no one's watching, not even themselves. And Taryn? She understood that better than anyone in that house, which meant she saw more than she let on. Always, the nights didn't stop. If anything, they became more consistent, not scheduled, but expected. Kai found himself returning to the same place. Same quiet, same presence. Ashley, this time, what? She didn't wait for him to speak first. You went outside. He paused. You noticed. A small tilt of her head. I notice things. You don't move like someone who stays in one place. That line. It wasn't random. It was precise. Kai leaned against the wall again. Maybe I don't. Ashley studied him for a second. Not intensely. Just enough. You're not here by accident. There it was. Not a question. Not an accusation. A conclusion. Kai didn't respond immediately. Because this was different. Not like Ali's control. Not like Taryn's quiet observation. This was something else. Clarity. And for a moment, he considered deflecting, changing the subject, staying in control. But instead, he exhaled slowly. No, I'm not. Ashley nodded. No surprise, no reaction. Just confirmation. That made it harder, because she wasn't trying to expose him. She was just seeing him and accepting what she saw. Without needing more, Kai looked toward the window. Does it bother you? Ashley's answer came quickly. No. Should it? He shook his head slightly. No. Silence settled again. But this time, it felt different, lighter, like something had been acknowledged without creating tension. Kai glanced at her again. You don't push. Ashley gave a faint smile. I don't need to. People reveal themselves eventually. That stayed because it was true. And in that moment, Kai realized something. He wasn't just comfortable around her. He was at peace, not the kind of peace that comes from silence. The kind that comes from not needing to be anything other than what you are, even if you're not fully showing it yet. That feeling, it was unfamiliar. And because of that, it mattered. Kai exhaled slowly. It's quiet here. Ashley glanced toward the window. A small pause. That's why I like it. He nodded. Yeah, another breath. Because for once, the quiet didn't feel empty. It felt full, not with noise, but with presence, understanding, something unspoken. But real. Kai closed his eyes briefly. I don't get this often. The words slipped out, unplanned. Ashley didn't react immediately. Then, you should, simple, but meaningful, because she wasn't saying it as advice. She was stating it like fact, like he deserved it. And for a second, that idea felt unfamiliar. Kai opened his eyes again. Maybe. A quiet breath followed, because he wasn't used to thinking that way. Not anymore. Ashley shifted slightly. You're not as guarded as you think. That caught him off guard. What makes you say that? She looked at him. Because you keep coming back. People who are truly guarded don't do that. That landed deeper than he expected. Because it wasn't wrong. He did keep coming back. Not out of obligation, not out of routine, but because this felt different, real. Kai exhaled slowly. Yeah, the word barely formed, because now, he couldn't deny it, something had changed. Not just in how he saw the house, but in how he felt inside it. And that change, it was centered around her, Ashley, the one person who didn't need to know everything, to understand enough, and somehow, that made him want to stay, not just in the house, but in those moments, where nothing had to be explained, where nothing had to be proven, where he could just exist. And for someone like him, that wasn't small, that was everything, even if he wasn't ready to admit it yet, because some truths, they take time to fully settle, even when you already feel them, and this was one of them, quiet, unspoken, but undeniable. The shift didn't happen loudly. Ali didn't change in a way anyone could point at immediately. It was subtle. That lasted a second longer than usual. A glance that didn't move away as quickly. Kai noticed it before anyone else. Not because she made it obvious, but because he had already learned how she operated. Control, precision, distance, and now, something was off. It started one afternoon. The house was quieter than usual. Taryn was gone again. Ashley remained near her usual space. Kai moved through the main room, finishing a task. Focused, unbothered. Wait. Her voice stopped him. Not sharp, not commanding, different. Kai turned slightly. Yes? Ali stood near the center of the room, phone in hand, but not looking at it, looking at him. Come here. A brief pause. Then he stepped forward. Controlled. She took her time. Didn't speak immediately. Just observed. You've been here a while now. Kai nodded. Yes. Another pause. You learn fast. That wasn't a compliment. Not exactly. More like acknowledgement. I do what's required. Her lips curved slightly. Is that all? There it was. The shift. Subtle, but clear. Kai didn't respond, because this wasn't about conversation anymore. This was positioning. Ali stepped closer. Not enough to invade, just enough to test boundaries. You don't act like the others. Kai met her gaze. The others? She tilted her head. The ones who try too hard. You don't. Silence stretched between them. Kai stayed still. because reacting would confirm something, and he wasn't giving her that. Ali exhaled softly. You know what I think? Kai didn't answer. I think you're holding back. And I don't like not knowing why. That line, that was honest, not soft, not kind, but real. Kai glanced away briefly. Maybe there's nothing to know. She smiled. No, there's always something. Another step closer. You just haven't decided who gets to see it. Silence. Then, she stepped back, like she had gathered enough. Stay available this evening. Kai's eyes narrowed slightly. For what? A faint shrug. You'll see. And, just like that, she turned, walking away. But something had changed. Not in the house. In her. Because for the first time, Ali wasn't just controlling him as staff. She was interested, and not in a simple way. In a way that needed control, needed access. And that kind of interest? It didn't fade. It escalated. Kai exhaled slowly. Yeah, barely audible. Because now, there was a new layer to navigate. And it wasn't subtle anymore. Not really. Just quiet enough to become dangerous in ways that hadn't revealed themselves yet, but would soon. That evening, the house didn't feel the same. Not because anything had changed physically, because the energy had. Kai stepped into the lounge area. Lights dim, music low. Ali stood near the bar. Dressed differently, not formal, intentional, like she expected attention, and knew she would get it. She glanced at him. There you are. Kai stopped a few steps away. You said to stay available. A small smile. I like that you listen. She poured a drink, didn't offer him one, just held it. Sit. Kai remained standing. I'm fine here. Then, a quiet exhale from her. You don't follow directions well, do you? Kai's voice stayed calm. I follow what makes sense. That was the moment. The shift. Because for the first time, he didn't align with her control. And she felt it. Clearly, Ali turned toward him fully now. Do you know how many people would trade places with you right now? Kai didn't answer, because he already knew where this was going. She stepped closer. You're standing in a position most people can't even get near. And you're acting like it doesn't matter. Kai held her gaze. It doesn't. Silence. Immediate. Heavy. Ali blinked once, not expecting that. Excuse me. Kai didn't repeat himself, didn't soften it, just stood there, unmoved. And that hit her harder than anything else could have. Because rejection? She wasn't used to it. Not real rejection. Not the kind that didn't come with hesitation. Her grip tightened slightly around the glass. You're serious? Kai nodded once. Yes. Another pause. Then, a short laugh. Not amused. Sharp. Wow. She stepped back, shaking her head slightly. I misread you. Kai didn't respond, because correcting her wasn't necessary. She looked at him again, but this time, it wasn't curiosity. It was something else. Bruised pride. You think you're better than this? Kai's voice stayed even. No, I just don't belong in it. That line cut deeper than anything else. Because it wasn't insulting, it was dismissive of her world, of her control, of everything she valued. And she felt it. Clearly, her expression hardened. Subtle, but real. You'll regret that. Kai didn't react, didn't challenge it, just stood there. And that silence, it made it worse. Because now, she couldn't control the outcome. And that was something Ali never tolerated. She turned away abruptly. Go. Kai didn't hesitate. He turned, walked out, not rushed, not slow, just done. Behind him, the sound of glass hitting the counter echoed, sharp, contained, but loud enough. Kai didn't look back, because he didn't need to. He already understood what that meant. This wasn't over, not even close, because Ali didn't let things go. She redirected them, and now, this wasn't interest anymore. It was something else, something heavier, something driven by something she couldn't control. And that made it worse. Kai exhaled slowly as he stepped into the hallway. That was necessary. The words came out quiet, but firm, because even though the tension had escalated, he didn't regret it, not even slightly, because for the first time, the line had been drawn, clearly, and there was no going back from that. Not for her, not for him, and definitely not for what was about to happen next. Because rejection, it doesn't end things, it transforms them. And in Ali's case, that transformation was going to come with consequences, the kind that didn't stay quiet for long, not in a house like this, not with someone like her, and whether he wanted it or not. Kai had just stepped into it, fully, without hesitation, and now, everything was going to move differently. From here on out, no more subtle shifts, no more quiet control, just collision waiting to happen. The house was quieter than usual that night, not just in sound, in feeling. Something lingered in the air, unresolved. Kai felt it the moment he stepped into the hallway. The tension from earlier hadn't faded. It had shifted, but he didn't go toward the main rooms, didn't check the usual spaces. Instead, without thinking too much about it, he moved toward the window, toward her. Ashley was already there. Of course she was. The light was low, soft, casting shadows that didn't feel heavy. She didn't turn immediately when he approached. "You look like something's on your mind." Her voice was calm, but not distant. Kai stopped beside her. Something happened. I figured. She turned slightly now, looking at him, not pushing, just waiting. Kai exhaled slowly. Ali, that was enough. Ashley's expression didn't change much, but something in her eyes did. A quiet acknowledgement. He leaned back slightly. "She's different lately." Ashley tilted her head just a bit. She doesn't like not being in control. That landed, because it explained everything, without needing detail. Kai glanced at her. "You're not surprised." A faint breath left her. "No." But that doesn't mean it won't get worse. Silence, because they both knew that was true. Kai looked away briefly. "I handled it." Ashley studied him for a second. "You didn't give her what she wanted." Not a question, a conclusion. Kai nodded. "No." Another pause. Then, "Good." That word. It came out soft, but firm. And for some reason, it mattered. Kai looked at her again. "Why?" Ashley didn't answer immediately. Then, "Because people like that don't stop when you give in. They just take more." That truth sat between them, heavy, but clear. Kai exhaled slowly. "Yeah." A quiet breath followed, because he knew that already, but hearing it from her, it grounded it, made it feel steady. Ashley looked back toward the window. "You don't belong in that." Kai's brow furrowed slightly. "In what?" She didn't look at him. "That kind of control. You move like someone who's used to choosing." That hit closer than anything else had. Kai didn't respond, because this was dangerous territory. Not for her. For him, because she was getting closer to something he hadn't said, hadn't shown, but still. She saw it. "You're not as invisible as you think." Her voice was softer now. Kai let out a slow breath. "I'm trying to be." Ashley turned toward him again. "Why?" The question wasn't sharp. It was real. and that made it harder to answer. Kai hesitated, just for a second. Then, because when people know who you are, he stopped, didn't finish. Ashley didn't interrupt, didn't push, just waited. They stopped seeing anything else. The rest came out quieter, but complete. Ashley held his gaze. That sounds lonely. That word. It wasn't dramatic, but it landed deeper than anything else. Kai looked away. It is longer this time, because now the space between them wasn't just quiet. It was open, and something in that openness, shifted everything. Ashley's voice softened. You don't have to be that here. Kai looked at her, really looked, because that offer, it wasn't casual, it wasn't surface level, it meant something. And for a second, he didn't know what to do with it. You don't even know me. Ashley's lips curved slightly. I know enough. And the rest doesn't change that. That was the moment, because suddenly, all the walls he had been holding up, they didn't feel as solid. Not here, not with her. Kai stepped closer, not fast, not forced, just drawn. Ashley didn't move, didn't pull back, didn't step forward. She just stayed, and that made it easier and harder. At the same time, their eyes met. No distractions, no noise, just truth. Kai's voice dropped slightly. You make it sound simple. Ashley shook her head softly. It's not. It's just worth it. That was it. That was all it took. Because suddenly, everything felt clear, not logical, not planned, but certain. Kai lifted his hand slightly, hesitated, then didn't stop. His fingers brushed lightly against her arm. Careful, like he was still asking permission. She didn't pull away, didn't react, just stayed, and that was enough. He leaned in, slow, deliberate, and then he kissed her, soft, not rushed, not driven by urgency, just intentional, like he was choosing the moment, not losing control to it. Ashley's breath caught slightly, but she didn't resist. Her hand lifted slowly, resting against his chest, not pushing, not pulling, just grounding. And for that moment, nothing else existed. Not the house, not the tension, not the past. Just that quiet, real, and undeniable. When they pulled back, neither of them spoke immediately, because words would have reduced it. And this didn't need reduction. Ashley exhaled softly. That wasn't simple. Kai let out a quiet breath. No, a faint pause. But it was worth it. Her lips curved slightly, and just like that, something had changed. Not subtly, not quietly, but completely, and there was no going back from it. Not for either of them. Because once a moment like that happens, it doesn't disappear. It stays, and everything after it feels different, in ways you can't undo, even if you try, and neither of them were going to try. Not anymore, not after that. The night didn't end there. It slowed, settled, but it didn't break. Kai didn't leave immediately. Ashley didn't ask him to. They stayed where they were. Close, not touching now, but not distant either. Like the space between them had changed. You should probably go. Her voice came out softer, not pushing, just aware. Kai nodded slightly. Yeah, but he didn't move right away. Neither did she, stretched between them. Then, he glanced toward her again. You okay? Ashley gave a small nod. A faint breath followed. I'm okay. That mattered, because This wasn't something she was unsure about. It was something she chose, and that made it real. Kai exhaled slowly. Then he stepped closer again, not for the same reason, not for urgency, just presence. Ashley leaned back slightly as he sat beside her, careful, making space. They didn't say anything for a while, just sat there, quiet, and somehow that felt just as meaningful, because this wasn't about intensity anymore. It was about comfort, and for the first time, Kai felt it fully, not just in moments, but consistently, a kind of peace he hadn't realized he needed. He leaned back slightly. "I don't get this." Ashley glanced at him. "What?" "This feeling like I don't have to be anything." Ashley's expression softened. "Then don't." Simple, but it stayed. Kai closed his eyes briefly. "Yeah." A quiet breath followed, because it really was that simple. At least here, with her. Time passed, unmeasured, until, eventually, the weight of the day caught up with them. Ashley shifted slightly. "You can stay, for a bit." Not an invitation layered with anything else, just honesty. Kai hesitated, then nodded. "Okay." He adjusted slightly on the bed, keeping distance, respecting space. Ashley leaned back, careful, composed, but relaxed, and slowly, without planning to, they drifted, not into anything complicated, just rest, side by side, quiet, until morning. Footsteps, sharp, unexpected. The door wasn't fully closed. It didn't need to be, because no one was supposed to be there. But someone was. Ali. She stopped at the doorway, and everything shifted. Her eyes moved across the room, taking in the scene, the stillness, the closeness, the reality of it, and for a second, she didn't speak, didn't react, just processed. Then, a slow exhale. "Wow." The word came out low, controlled, but sharp. Kai opened his eyes, sat up immediately. Ashley followed, calm, but aware. Ali stepped into the room, slow, measured. "You really went there." Her gaze moved between them, not confused, not surprised. Something else, something heavier. "That's what you chose." Silence, because there was no version of this moment that didn't carry tension. Kai stood. "This isn't..." Ali cut him off. "Oh, don't." A small laugh. "Please don't explain it." Her eyes shifted to Ashley, and that's where it changed, because now, it wasn't about him, it was about her, and that made it worse. "You really think this is different?" Ashley didn't respond, didn't react, just held her gaze. And that made Ali's expression tighten. "You're playing a game you can't win." Silence. Heavy, unavoidable. And just like that, the shift was complete. This wasn't interest anymore. This wasn't curiosity. This was something else. Something sharper. Something personal. Jealousy. And not the quiet kind. The kind that builds. The kind that waits. The kind that doesn't forget. Ali turned, walking out without another word. But the message, it stayed, clear, unspoken, but understood. This wasn't over, not even close. And whatever came next, was going to be louder, more direct, and impossible to ignore. Because now, there was something at stake, not just control, not just power, something deeper. And that made everything more dangerous, for all of them. It didn't happen in private. Ali made sure of that. The house was active that afternoon. Voices, movement, a few guests moving through the main space. Not crowded, but enough for attention, enough for impact. Kai stepped into the room, just as the tension started forming. He felt it before he saw it. That shift in energy, sharp, focused. Ali stood near the center, composed, but not calm. Ashley was a few feet away, still in her chair, still steady, but something about her posture. It wasn't the same. Kai moved closer. "What's going on?" No one answered him, because the moment wasn't about explanation, it was about execution. Ali's eyes flicked toward him briefly, then back to Ashley. "Go on." Her voice was quiet, but deliberate. "Say it again." Ashley didn't respond, didn't react. And that made Ali smile. "Oh, right." A soft breath left her. "You only speak when it's comfortable." Kai stepped forward. "Ali." A warning, but she ignored it. Completely. "Let's not pretend we don't all see what's happening here." Her gaze swept the room, then landed back on Ashley. "You really think this is real?" Silence. Because now people were watching, not openly, but enough. Kai felt his jaw tighten. "Stop." Ali turned toward him slowly. "Or what? You'll defend her again?" Kai didn't hesitate. "Yes." That answer. It landed, and for a second, the room shifted, but Ali didn't back down. She stepped closer to Ashley. Slow, measured. "You know what I think?" No one interrupted her. No one moved, because everyone felt it coming. "I think you're confusing attention with something real." Ashley's hands tightened slightly, subtle, but visible. Kai stepped forward again. "That's enough." Ali didn't even look at him this time. Her voice sharpened. "No. Let's be honest for once." Then, because no man chooses a girl in a wheelchair unless he has no better option. Silence. Complete. Heavy. It didn't echo. It didn't need to, because it hit exactly where it was meant to. Kai moved instantly. "That's not true." His voice cut through the room. Sharp, controlled, but firm. Ali turned toward him. "Oh, really?" A faint smile. "Then explain it." He stepped in front of Ashley now, positioning himself without thinking. "She doesn't need an explanation." Ali let out a short laugh. "No, she does." Her gaze shifted back to Ashley. "Because if you don't say it now, someone else will." Ashley didn't look up, didn't respond. And that was the part that hurt the most. Because she wasn't breaking. She was withdrawing, quietly, like she had heard this before, like she already knew how this ended. Kai's voice dropped. "Stop talking." Ali's expression hardened. "Or what? You'll choose her?" Silence. Because now, that question mattered, not just to her, to everyone watching. Kai didn't hesitate. "Yes." The word came out steady, clear, and for the first time, Ali's smile disappeared completely. "You're serious?" Kai held her gaze. "I am." Another pause. Then, she shook her head slightly. "That's not going to last." Kai didn't respond, because he didn't need to. The line had already been drawn, and everyone in the room felt it. Ali stepped back, but her expression, it didn't soften. It sharpened, because this wasn't over, not even close. She turned, walking away slowly. But the damage, it stayed in the room, in the silence, and most of all, in Ashley. Kai turned toward her. "Hey," soft, careful, but she didn't look up, didn't respond, just stayed still. And for the first time, he felt something shift, not outside, inside, because this wasn't something he could fix immediately, not with words, not with presence, because some damage, it doesn't break you. It reminds you of everything you've already survived. And that kind of pain, it runs deeper, quiet, but heavy. And right now, that's exactly where she was, carrying it, without saying a word. And that silence, it was louder than anything Ali had said, because it meant something had changed, not just in the room, but in her. And Kai knew that was going to be harder to reach. than anything else that had happened so far. The house didn't return to normal. Not after that. Even the quiet felt different. Heavier, like something had settled into the walls. Ashley wasn't in her usual place that night. Not by the window. Not in the open spaces. Kai noticed immediately. Because absence. It stood out more than presence ever could. He found her later. In her room. Lights low. Still. She wasn't looking at anything. Just sitting. Kai stopped at the doorway. Ashley. No response. He stepped inside. Careful. Not rushing. Can we talk? Then. About what? Her voice was quiet, not broken, but distant. That difference. It mattered. Kai exhaled slowly. About what happened. Ashley nodded slightly. Another pause. What about it? Kai hesitated. Because this wasn't going to be simple. She was wrong. Ashley let out a faint breath. I know. That answer. It didn't fix anything. Because knowing something isn't true doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. Kai stepped closer. Then why does it feel like this? She didn't look at him. Because it's not new. That landed. Because suddenly. This wasn't just about today. This was history. Experience. Accumulated moments. People say things like that. They always have. Kai's jaw tightened slightly. That doesn't make it right. Ashley shook her head softly. I didn't say it did. Silence. Then. I just learned not to expect anything different. That was the part that hit hardest. Not the insult. Not the moment. The expectation, or lack of it. Kai stepped closer again. You don't believe that. Ashley finally looked at him, and, for a second, there was something there. Not anger, not sadness, something else. I don't know what I believe. That's the problem. Silence filled the space again, but this time, it wasn't calm, it was uncertain. Kai exhaled slowly. Do you think I'm here because I feel sorry for you? The question came out direct. Ashley didn't answer immediately. That hesitation. It said enough. Kai's chest tightened slightly. Ashley. She looked away. I don't know. There it was. Not an accusation. Not a conclusion. Just doubt. And that hurt more than anything Ali had said. Because this mattered. Kai ran a hand through his hair briefly. You think I would stay this long, just because of that? Ashley's voice stayed quiet. People stay for all kinds of reasons. Not all of them are real. That line. It cut deeper than she probably intended, because it challenged everything. Everything he had been building. Everything they had been building. Kai stepped back slightly, not in distance, in thought. And you think this isn't real? Ashley didn't answer, and that silence. It was enough. Kai exhaled slowly. Okay. A quiet breath followed, because pushing now wouldn't fix it. It would break it further. I'm not going to try and convince you right now. Ashley glanced at him. Why not? He held her gaze. Because if it's real, you'll see it. That landed, not loudly, but clearly. Ashley didn't respond. But something in her expression shifted, slightly, not enough to change everything, but enough to matter. Kai nodded once. Get some rest. He turned, walking toward the door, then paused, just for a second. I meant what I said. No explanation, no added words. Just that. Then he left. The door closed softly behind him, and Ashley remained where she was, still, quiet, but not untouched, because doubt. It doesn't erase connection. It tests it. And right now, that's exactly what was happening. Not destruction, not the end, just pressure. And whether that pressure broke them or strengthened them, that part hadn't been decided yet. But one thing was clear. Nothing between them was simple anymore. Not after this. Not after what had been said, and not after what had been felt. Because once doubt enters something real, it changes how everything is seen, even the truth, until that truth proves itself, or doesn't. And now, that was the line they were standing on, together, but not quite in the same place anymore. Not yet, not after that, but maybe, still close enough, for something to hold, if it was strong enough. And soon, they were going to find out, one way or another. The shift didn't come quietly. It never does when truth finally catches up. Morning hadn't fully settled when the cars arrived. Not one, multiple, black, polished, unfamiliar, the kind that didn't belong to the Vale estate. Staff noticed first, then Taryn. By the time allies stepped into the hallway, everything had already changed. What is this? Her voice carried sharp confusion. No one answered, because the answer was walking in. 3 men, suits, posture straight, presence controlled, not guests, something else. Kai was already there, standing near the entrance, still, not hiding, not moving. And that alone, that was the first sign. Taryn noticed immediately. Her eyes narrowed slightly. Yeah, barely audible, because suddenly, things made sense. The way he moved, the way he spoke, the way he never fully fit. Ashley arrived moments later, slower, careful, but present. Her eyes found him instantly, and something in her expression shifted, because she felt it too. That something was about to change. One of the men stepped forward. Your Highness. Silence. Complete. Ali blinked. I'm sorry. What? The man didn't repeat himself. He didn't need to, because Kai didn't correct him, didn't deny it. He just stood there. And that confirmed everything. Ashley's breath caught slightly. Kamal. The name slipped out before she could stop it, because now she understood everything. Kai, no, Kamal, looked at her, and for the first time, there was no distance, no version of himself held back, just truth. I didn't plan for it to come out like this. His voice was steady, but not distant. Ashley held his gaze. So it's true. All of it. Kamal nodded once. Yes. Silence followed. But this silence, it wasn't confusion, it was processing, because suddenly, every moment they shared, every conversation, every look, had a new layer attached to it, and that was a lot to take in. Ali stepped forward. You're telling me? Her voice shifted, faster now. You're a prince? Kamal didn't look at her. Yes. Then everything about her changed. Completely. Oh my God. She let out a short breath. I didn't know. Her tone softened instantly. Controlled. Careful. I mean, if I had known. She stopped herself, then smiled. A different smile. The kind she used in rooms that mattered. This changes things. Kamal's expression didn't shift. No, the word landed, sharp, clear. It doesn't. Ali froze for a second. Of course it does. A quick glance at Ashley, then back to him. You don't belong here. Kamal met her gaze now. I was already here. That line, it shut something down. Immediately, Ali's smile tightened slightly. That's not what I meant. But it was, and everyone in the room knew it. Ashley didn't speak, didn't interrupt, but her eyes stayed on him. And that mattered more than anything else. Because she wasn't looking at the title. She was looking at the truth behind it, and trying to understand what it meant for them. Kamal exhaled slowly. I was trying to find something real. No performance, no explanation layered with status, just honesty. Ashley's voice came out quieter now. And did you? Long enough to matter. Kamal looked at her. I did. Silence. Because that answer, it wasn't for the room. It was for her, and only her, but whether she believed it. That part hadn't been decided yet. Not after everything. Not after the doubt. And Kamal knew that, which meant this moment, it wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of something harder. Proving it, for real, without hiding, without pretending, and without the distance he had relied on before, because now there was nothing left to hide behind, not anymore. Not after this, not after the truth, and everything that came next was going to be built on that, or break because of it. There was no middle ground, not now, not for them, not after everything they had already been through, and everyone in that room could feel it. This wasn't over, not even close. It had just changed completely. Ali recovered quickly. She always did. But this time, there was urgency behind it. She stepped forward again. Closer. Kamal. Her voice softened further. I think we should talk. A glance at Ashley. Then back. Privately. Kamal didn't move. There's nothing to discuss. Ali's expression tightened. Don't do that. Her tone sharpened just slightly. You don't understand the position you're in right now. Kamal held her gaze. I do. Silence. Then, she tried again. Different angle. You need someone who understands your world. Someone who can stand beside you. That word, stand, it wasn't accidental. It never was. Ashley's hands tightened slightly, but she didn't speak, didn't react, because she had heard this before. Kamal stepped forward, positioning himself clearly. Between them, she already does. Silence. Complete. Because that answer, it didn't leave room for interpretation. Ali let out a short breath. You're making a mistake. Kamal shook his head once. No. I'm making a choice. That line, it ended it. Not loudly, but finally. Ali's expression hardened. Not dramatic. Just cold. You'll regret it. Kamal didn't respond, because there was nothing left to say. She turned, walking out, this time. Oh, not in control, not composed, just done, and just like that. The tension broke, not completely, but enough. Kamal turned toward Ashley, slowly, carefully, because this mattered more than anything else. You deserve an explanation. Ashley looked at him. I deserve the truth. Kamal nodded. You're right. Silence stretched between them. But this one, it wasn't distant. It was necessary. I didn't trust anyone. He didn't rush it, didn't soften it. I needed to know what was real. Ashley held his gaze, and I was part of that. Kamal exhaled slowly. No, you became the reason I stopped looking. That landed, because it wasn't polished. It wasn't perfect, but it was honest. Ashley's voice softened. You still lied. Kamal nodded. I did. And I can't take that back. Silence. Then, but what I felt with you. He stopped, just for a second, then finished. That was the only thing that wasn't part of the plan. That truth. It settled, not immediately accepted, but not rejected either. Ashley looked away briefly, then back. I don't want to be chosen because I'm easy to feel sorry for. Kamal stepped closer. You're not. You're the only person here who never needed anything from me. Silence. And that's why I stayed. That was the moment. Because now, there was nothing hidden. No version of him held back. Just truth. And whether she accepted it. That choice was hers. Not influenced. Not pressured. Just hers. Ashley exhaled softly. You really stayed for me? Kamal didn't hesitate. Yes. Not the house. Not the test. Not any of it. Silence. Then something shifted. Not loudly. Not dramatically. But enough. Ashley's shoulders relaxed slightly. Not fully, but more than before. You're going to have to prove that. Kamal nodded. I will. Simple. No promise layered with perfection. Just commitment. And that was enough. For now. Later. The space felt different. Lighter. Not because everything was fixed. Because something had been decided. Kamal stepped into another room. Then paused. Come here. A small voice answered. His son, running toward him. Familiar. Real. Kamal crouched slightly. Hey! The boy smiled. Then noticed Ashley. Slowed down. Curious. Who's that? Kamal glanced back. Then at her. Someone important. Ashley blinked slightly, not expecting that. The boy stepped closer. Studied her. Then. Hi. Simple. Honest. Ashley smiled softly. Hi. A small pause. Then. He hugged her, without hesitation, without question, and that moment. It said more than anything else could have, because children, they don't filter connection. They feel it, or they don't, and right now. He did. Kamal watched it, quiet, because this was the life he wanted. Not perfect, not controlled, just real. Ashley looked up at him, and this time, there was no distance, just understanding, still healing, still growing, but real, and that was enough, because love, it doesn't start perfect. It becomes something over time, through truth, through choice, and through moments like this, quiet, unspoken, but undeniable, and for the first time, Kamal wasn't searching for it. He had found it, right where he least expected, and right where it mattered most. And this time, he wasn't letting it go. Not again. Not ever. Because some things, once you recognize them, you don't question them anymore. You choose them fully. And that's exactly what he did. Without hesitation, without doubt, and without looking back. Because now, there was nothing left behind worth returning to, only something ahead worth building. Together, finally, without doubt, and without looking back. Because now, there was nothing left behind worth returning to, only something ahead worth building. Together, finally.
Hope you enjoyed the story, and remember to subscribe. Bye.